In this video, I'm going to show why birds and bird flight cannot possibly have come about by evolution and selected mutations. So while one wing of evolution, science, says there were no bird precursors, another jumps through hoops to prove there was. A majority of evolution believes that all birds evolved from theropod dinosaurs like these. Evolution scientists use what is called a clade, which is a branched timeline. A clade displays the steps from species to species that evolved as the descendants of one common ancestor. This beautiful clade illustration shows the evolution of birds from earlier raptors. It is prominently displayed on a major university's biology website, and it has been on several science-related TV shows on the BBC. But as usual, there are some problems. The chronological order and geographic locations of these species are foul, as if put together by a bird brain. The oldest species in the chain, Sinosauropteryx, lived 130 million years ago in China, 20 million years after the first birds appeared. The next oldest, Velociraptor, lived 75 to 71 million years ago, a full 75 million years after birds appeared. They roamed China, Mongolia, and Russia. Next in the bird lineage was Unalagia, which appeared 90 million years ago, a full 60 million years too late for bird evolution. It also roamed southern Argentina, which isn't very near China or Germany, where the first birds appeared. Then there is Archaeopteryx, the first true bird, which roamed Germany, which is not near southern Argentina or China, 144 million years ago. Now the last species on this chain is the corvus or crow. Why just a single bird type? It looks better than saying a single species evolved into a single species, which then evolved into 10,000 different bird species. A seemingly impossible task for Archaeopteryx, selected mutations, Charles Darwin, and even for Richard Dawkins. Each species is carefully placed to make it look like theropods evolved into modern birds. Who cares where they lived or at what time? The species on this clade were placed to support evolution, not the facts of chronology or geography, and certainly not science. This is illusion at its best. Checking other clade illustrations shows the same chronological and geographic disparities. So the whole theory of bird evolution rests with this guy, Archaeopteryx. But again there are some problems. Archaeopteryx and friends spent millions of years evolving teeth like these. And what about these immense bony tails that theropods spent millions of years evolving, only to do a complete 180 and disevolve, so they could fly sometime in the future?
Would mean going downhill into the valley. And the one thing you cannot do on Mount Improbable is ever go downhill.
Except in the case of Archaeopteryx teeth and tails. Another fascinating fact is that T-Rex's tiny forelimbs never evolved a lick in 30 million years. Not a bit. That's hundreds of times longer than it took man to evolve from early primates. T-Rex couldn't even clap. The transitional forelimbs would have been very useful, but birds supposedly grew wings. The transitional stages would have been completely useless, non-aerodynamic appendages compared to larger and stronger forelimbs. So where is this guy? Why weren't forelimbs like these selected for? This is a short clip from a BBC show on evolution, showing how birds evolved from theropods.
In fact, Velociraptor was only 2.5 feet tall, and it looked very much like a bird.
This looks very much like a bird. Is he joking? Is he kidding? Look at that large bony tail. Those pesky teeth are still there. Velociraptor looks nothing like a bird. Now that the host revealed that Velociraptor looks like a bird, and it doesn't, he uses a few bony bird-Velociraptor similarities to try to convince us that theropods really did evolve into birds.
Look at these long front limbs, much like wings.
Long front limbs, much like wings? Time for a visit to the optometrist.
It's got hollow bones, only found on dinosaurs and birds.
Bird bones are like those of no other species. They have large air-filled spaces, they're connected to lung sacs, and also have struts for strength. Theropod bones are more like hollow tubes that may have held marrow or fatty tissue. In reality, nearly all bones from vertebrates except fish are hollow once they have been decomposed or thoroughly cleaned. Sorry to report.
Look at those feet. What about those feet? They're much more like talons, aren't they? Yeah.
He really thinks those evolved into these? What a great salesman. While we're at it, let's look at bird fingers. Both theropod dinosaurs and modern birds have tridactyl or three-fingered hands. In both, digits emerge during the development from a cartilaginous array. The part that turns into digit 4 is always the same, providing a reference point for numbering the other digits. Bird fingers are numbers 2, 3, and 4. For example, our thumb is digit number 1 and our baby finger is digit number 5. And wouldn't you know it, just to make it tough for evolution, theropod dinosaurs, their three fingers are digits numbers 1, 2, and 3. Once you are committed to developing digits 1, 2, and 3, switching to 2, 3, and 4 would be a hugely improbable evolutionary task. Why would that even happen? Even if you were on Mount Improbable, downhill we go again. Whee! The lungs in birds function entirely differently than those in all other species, and no other species on Earth has lungs even remotely close to those of birds. Bird lungs have 9 bellows-like air sacs. These air sacs keep the lungs permanently inflated. They don't go in and out like humans. There is a one-way flow of air in bird lungs. Thus the lungs receive fresh air during inhalation, of which there are 2, and again during exhalation, of which there are 2. When a bird breathes in, the air does not go into the lung. It goes into separate air sacs. Air goes into the lungs when the bird exhales. Bird lungs have an opening on each end through which air flows into the interconnected air sacs in the neck, chest, and abdomen. Birds don't mix stale gases with fresh like we do. They breathe nothing but absolutely the freshest air. This unbelievable non-design, allows birds more oxygen for flying at higher altitudes and because their in-flight energy demands are so great. Oh, and guess what? Evolution has determined that theropod dinosaurs had the same kind of lungs as birds. They were able to make this determination even though there is not one cell of one theropod lung remaining from the fossil record. And even though not one similarly equipped species today has lungs anything like what birds have. And they found this remarkable discovery simply by comparing vertebrae of birds and theropods. Isn't that amazing? It's kind of interesting to think of what intermediate steps there might be between a two-way flowing lung and a one-way flowing lung. But I guess we just can't think too deeply on this one. And if you don't think selected mutations made bird lungs, don't see how it could have happened, or even doubt that it did, you are guilty of personal incredulity. I am guilty because I don't see how a heart-lung system of any kind could be formed by selective mutations. Sorry. Personal incredulity.
Personal incredulity. Personal incredulity.